So I'm going to explain why I chose to study mathematics and why I chose to do it at Cambridge. I originally thought I would make two separate videos, one from to explain why I chose to study maths and the other to explain why I chose to study in Cambridge. But I realized that for me both were linked reasons and they kind of just came hand in hand, and part of the reason, as you will see, why I decided to study maths was because I could do it in Cambridge, and part of the reason why I chose to study in Cambridge was to study maths. So as you might have seen on some of my previous videos, I'm originally from Spain. I did all my high school education there in Spain, and the the first time I came across like the concept of I mean, probably I knew what the university was, but when I had a chance to experience it was um, I went to a summer school that was just to practice English, to learn English for international students. So these summer schools, they were based in Cambridge. They were in like university, like college accommodation, but it was not in any way affiliated with the university. It was just that they were using the buildings there during the summer. But I chose to do that. I think on summer I was 14 at the time, and I had 3 years of high school left before I would go into university. So that was the first time I was there, and my plan, I guess, was just to um, look around and learn English and meet a lot of people, and uh, that was fun. It was my first time being there in Cambridge and being like in the UK on my own. And I guess while I was there, I kind of researched a bit, like what the university was, just because it sounded like a great place. And I think that was about around the age that I had started to think about what I wanted to do for university in the long term. So at that time, high school was already like very serious. It was demanding, but I knew I was good at maths. I guess that might be like for a different video, but I was always good at maths, but I never did any sort of like crazy Olympiads and stuff. I didn't have much opportunity, but I also didn't seek it specifically. I was just getting like really good grades, and a lot of people in my family have an engineering background, so maybe I did learn some maths on the side occasionally through the years, but it was nothing serious. But it was just like through school that I like maths, but I also like science. I like physics and I like chemistry. And after that year in high school, I guess I had a look at all the like possibilities to study at university, but I was at the time just thinking about Spain, um, and I knew that there was this very prestigious degree that was in maths and physics that it kind of required the highest score in university entrance exams to get in, because it so like many people wanted to get in but very few got in, and all the people that got in were like really good, so it was like a double degree in maths and physics. So I kind of knew that that was an option, but as I said, I was 15. I wasn't like convinced or like set on anything. It was not like the people that say they want to be like medical doctors and they know that since they've been like 5 years old. It wasn't like that for me at all. So I just knew that that was an option and that yeah, maybe I'll go that route, but I didn't think seriously about it. And I guess in the back of my mind I was like, yeah, I'll probably just go to uni in Spain and we'll see. But I had this opportunity to be there in Cambridge and to obviously like practice English and stuff like that, but also just to see the university. And I did find out that like Stephen Hawking and a lot of other famous like mathematicians or like physicists have been associated with the university. And I remember that in one of the breaks that we had, where I had like, I don't know, maybe like 2 3 hours or so where I didn't have any classes or events for the summer school that I was in, that I just decided I would walk to the maths faculty and see what it was like. I didn't think that it was Sunday, so when I got there and it's a bit far off, I did get lost. But it took me like almost an hour to get there, because at the time I couldn't use data because I had my Spanish phone number, and so I would get charged from it. So I didn't even use Google Maps. I just walked there, like all the school. I had screenshots of the map and how I needed to get there. And I arrived there and it was closed, but I did eventually get there and see it from the outside, the maths faculty. And then I just came back and I came back to the program and then I came back to Spain eventually. And at that time, there wasn't anything serious, but um, the following year, throughout high school, I guess that was when it got a bit more serious, the idea. So this was around the time where we already were starting to think seriously about what we wanted to do in uni, because it also affected the choices of courses that we will end up doing. And during this academic year, I was a bit more like thoughtful of Cambridge being a possibility. And so, but it would seem like a really complicated process, and it is. You can check my video about it, how to like apply to study at Cambridge. And I guess around that time I was fairly lucky into that I would do either maths or physics because that was what I enjoyed the most. And yeah, I guess like why I wanted to do that. Like a lot of people enjoy maths and physics, but then they kind of just decide they want to do engineering or like I don't know, something that sounds a bit fancier in a way. And when I was choosing to do this, it wasn't, at least in Spain, it wasn't anything trendy. Now it is a bit more trendy because a lot of people get really good jobs from a maths or like physics degree. But before that, it was kind of the impression that if you did maths or physics, you would just like become a teacher basically. But I didn't care because I knew that I'm just gonna study something that I enjoy the most, and hopefully that leads to a job that I like. And I always knew I didn't want to have like a normal office job with like lots of meetings and emails, which I mean to be honest now I do have a fair bit of that, but I didn't want a normal job. So I was just a bit naively perhaps, but just thinking that I will go down that route because it was what I enjoyed. So basically, I was in this year of high school, so I had this year and then another year after that, and I was planning how I would apply to Cambridge, and no one in my school had ever done anything like that before, like applying to the UK. That was unheard of, really. So what I did, and I realized I was and I am in like a very lucky situation that I could afford these fancy summer schools that will go there and spend like 2 weeks like living abroad, like if I was honestly almost like if I was a student in Cambridge myself, but also with all this support, all the like teachers that are at the summer schools, they probably were like current Cambridge students or alumni, so they all knew the system very well. And for this second summer that I was there, I chose to do a course that was specifically studied to help with applications to study in Cambridge. So I wouldn't say it was super helpful because, to be honest, like everything there is to know, it's online, and these courses are not at all endorsed by the universities. But for me, it was just a way for me to see a path to do it. And yes, it was probably like not worth the money in that sense, that all the information that I could get, I would have gotten otherwise, if I had just done the research. But it meant that, I could see the path. It seemed really hard, and everyone told me like, oh, you have to be like really great to like succeed at the interviews, and then this maths test, that's called a step that you need to do to get into Cambridge. But at least I knew the steps, and it seemed, well, I could at the very least like send in an application. And it was around this time that I decided I would do maths. And the reason for that was that in Cambridge, maths is, well, everywhere there's like pure maths and applied maths, but in Cambridge there's a lot of applied maths and it's understood very broadly. So I knew that if I wanted, I could end up doing like a lot of theoretical physics, which was the part of physics that excited me the most. There was even a maths with physics option at the time where you could swap some of your courses from first year maths and just take some like the physics course that the people doing physics would take. And actually, this was the second reason why I chose to do maths and not physics, because in Cambridge there was not an option to do just physics. It was natural sciences. So in the first year, I would have had to do like, if I was on these natural science paths, like maths, physics, and then I had to choose other stuff, which would have been like, I guess for me, chemistry or like material science or biology or something like that. And I had had enough of all the other stuff. In high school in Spain, the system is very broad. So even my last year, I was taking like, not only biology and chemistry, but also like history of Spain and Spanish literature. And, while I was good at getting grades, I knew at that time that, I wanted to be a mathematician or a physicist. And so I wanted to specialize. And so for these reasons, I chose not to do natural sciences. And also, I chose not to apply to the math with physics option just because I guess around that time it was like the latest decision that I made. But no, like when I talk to people on the open days, which is something I was able to do while I was on this summer school and I was visiting Cambridge, went to the university open days and you could talk to current students there, and nobody really recommended the like maths with physics option. And actually, in my experience now that like eventually I became a student there, I have one of my closest friends that did that option, and it's okay, but nobody seemed to enjoy that option because the first year physics course, it all seemed like really like a recap of what you learn in high school physics, because that course is also chosen by the people who are doing natural sciences but they want to be chemists or something like that. So it wasn't really appealing. And also it would have been a bit more complicated during the application process because I would have had to do like an extra interview. And also I was just not very much enjoying the physics that I was learning in high school because it all seemed very and theoretical. So I'm not saying it was practical because in high school I don't recall we did many experiments in the lab. I mean, we had a lab, but we didn't go there that often. But just the prospect of having labs in physics at university that didn't seem appealing. So that's why I chose to study maths, even though I knew that theoretical physics might be the part of the course that would interest me the most. And actually, that in that respect, that's quite funny because that's what ended up happening. I liked, and this would be a topic for another video again, but I ended up going like the applied maths and theoretical physics route eventually once I was there. But yeah, that's why I chose that I would do maths. And um, I think at that point, like, well, I knew all the steps that I'll have to do to apply to get into maths at Cambridge, and I knew that I was consistently ranked. I don't know if it's like top 5 or top 10 or top 2 or something like that in the world for maths. And while these rankings, the specific places in like ranks for universities don't actually mean much while you are there. And for me, just comparing that with the idea of being in like top 100 university if I study maths or physics in Spain. And for me, that was like, well, it would be like so much nicer if I was in Cambridge because in that sense, I've been a very like not competitive but ambitious person in that sense. And I also knew that if I wanted to stay in doing research long term, which I wasn't sure at the time, but I always heard in the news that there's no money for sciences in Spain or things like that. And I'm not saying it's much better elsewhere, but it just seemed like, well, I'm gonna be here and it seems like the place to be if you want to have a shot at being like a great mathematician. And the final reason, I guess, why I chose to do it in Cambridge over Spain or really, yeah, similar places would be like just the experience of being there because everyone gets to live there in the campus. It's not just like the people who don't live nearby. Because if I had studied maths in Spain, well, I would have been in Madrid, and I would just be like commuting from my like you know lifetime home there, commuting to university, and it wouldn't seem the same experience. Obviously, again, I'm very lucky that I was able to afford this option to go there. I did go there before Brexit, which made things easier at the time. Um, but yeah, that's basically why I chose, uh, that I will try, and it was really hard, and I spent so many hours studying, especially preparing for like interviews and the maths exams and everything. And again, I have the video about how the process works, but that's really why I chose to study maths in Cambridge. So please let me know if you have any questions, any topic requests, let me know in the comments. Really appreciate the support that I've had in the channel over the last 2 weeks, especially. If you like, subscribe, it really helps and it motivates me to keep doing more videos. I'm gonna try to make them sort of chronologically from now on. I have a lot of more things to share about my PhD experience and what I am planning to do it afterwards. I'm gonna try to do it in some sort of order, but please let me know any topic requests below in the comments. And thank you, and never stop learning.